I'm joined today by Miles,
Hello.
and we're going to be doing the slight bit of hobby news that has come out this week. I went to a tournament, a doubles tournament, and then what we've been doing in the actual hobby besides gaming. So yeah, shall we dive straight into the news, Miles?
That's what we're doing. Yes, yeah, news. With slim pickings this week. But we have got the Malstrain Gene Stealer, I think it's called.
Yeah,
That's been
Malstrain
released for
Alpha.
Necromunda whenever that. Malstrain Alpha. Yeah, so we've got a Andrew Tate Tyrannid bio creature coming out very soon.
It took me a
And
second to
this,
get that joke, actually.
yeah, we have to say that Max hasn't had much sleep over the past 24 hours because he's watching Foo Fighters. Instead of getting his 8 hours, getting ready for the show like a pro, now
Yeah.
he's off enjoying his life. So
Recording
random.
is 2 hours delayed because of it. So.
Yeah, because yeah, Max needs sleep. Yeah, the Malstrain Alpha, great looking miniature. I think the perspective of the picture might be a little bit off because he seems to have like this huge hand, which I
Surely
think
that can't be forced perspective. Surely that's he's
I have no
actually got a fucking massive hand.
I have no idea. If he's got a super massive hand like that, I'll look to replace my own. Otherwise, yeah, good solid sculpt. I really like the look of the malformed Gene Stealer strain. Look fantastic. But what's got my motor running on this? The release date. I think they are releasing it on the Sunday,
Is it?
or they previewing it on the Sunday, which leads me to believe that I think the pre-orders for the new box set will not be up this weekend, but next weekend. So on the weekend of the July 7th, I think
That's your
think
bet. I
that's
reckon.
my bet.
I reckon because it says we'll be revealing another Dramatis Personae next week. I
Right.
reckon we have 6 months of Dramatis Personae, like the Cursed City teasers, where
That
we
long?
get to the point of being like sick to death of seeing this box, and that's when they'll drop it, and everyone will buy loads anyway. Yeah,
Yeah,
do you know
that's
what's got
true.
me really excited about this Pure Strain Gene Stealer?
What?
Is the combination of long tongue and black eye makeup makes me just
Uh-huh.
think of Kiss,
Okay, yeah,
like the
I can see
band.
that.
Yeah,
You could do like the markings on it as well.
yeah, yeah. So I think that will, if we do a painting and gaming weekend with it,
Well,
that
that's
might
the
have to
hope,
be
right?
the
That is the
the
hope.
theme.
So, for those who don't know, we do want to do another painting challenge where the team will assemble Captain Planet style when the new box set is released. We'll be painting all the gangs in one day and then playing through the campaign on the next day.
Mm.
If the stars align, if the box set drops at an appropriate weekend, yes, that's the hope, that's the dream.
We could always do it the weekend after, I suppose, if
Yeah, that's what I'm
like
thinking.
if it's
It's
better.
because it's my kid's birthday next month, and then I'm hosting a painting class at the end of next month. I have a horrible feeling it's going to be released on that weekend. But yeah, we'll rearrange our schedule. We will get that done. And
Yes.
sneakily, I haven't talked to Max about this yet, but I mean, we talked about the Tyranid release, the Tyranid part of that box
Yeah.
set, the Cultists, how I wasn't particularly enamored with them, how I think
Mm.
they should look slightly different. Well, I have been working on conversions in the background as I've been working on other things. So when it comes to the box set, I think I'll be taking the Gene Stealer side of things because I've already sort of started working on a gang for them.
All right. Yeah. I thought I'd been saddled is the wrong word, but I've got no preference between this box, so I'll just take whichever. And it was I thought you were coming down on like Spira or Van Sar.
I'd love to do the Spirers. I would freaking love to do the Spirers. But I feel like if we need to get this challenge done in the weekend, the amount of legwork it would take to get the genes, and I've thought of a really cool conversion to create what I would think of a genes. So the Gene Stealer gang, when I envision them, they're always outsiders of the community.
Mm.
They and I've had a thought that okay, this cult uprising has occurred and it's been squashed. what happens to those remnants? What happens to the leftovers? Well, this is what my cult gang is based on, where
Yeah.
they're trying to like restart the gang, but they do it with all the dregs, with all the people who haven't got like the right DNA. So their reproduction process is imperfect. They keep birthing monsters. They keep birthing like aberrations, things that cannot create perfect generations of gene stealer strains.
Yeah, yeah.
So and all the while on the outskirts of Necromunda, being poisoned by the atmosphere, malnutrition, all that good stuff. So that is the vibe I wanted to capture, and I found that I have a conversion. It's quite a simple conversion to do that gives more of that impression.
Have
But
you
all will be.
have you actually got this? Can you show it? Or
I have. I'm not showing it off today.
ah, boo,
I'm not showing it off
boo,
today. No, this
boo.
is going to be when we do the video. That's when I'll show that. I haven't shown it on any kind of social media. I haven't shown it anywhere. And Max, I'm not going to show you in the private messaging either. You'll have to wait like everyone else.
Boo. Like, yeah. Boo, Miles David. Boo. Right. Well, have you got anything you've been doing in the hobby this week?
3D printing.
3D printing.
So I've been building a lot of stuff in the background, which isn't like terribly interesting to look at or talk about. I've been building like the Marauders from the new Dark Oath set. But my main thing that I've been delving into is 3D printing, which is the core of this episode, which we'll get onto later.
No, I was going to say, shall we just
Yes.
go into it and then we'll circle back
Do
to
you want to go into it?
Yeah, like we're not strict to any sense. So what I'm going to first pull up, Miles, is the main experience of your 3D printing.
So 3D printing, my experience with 3D printing, I knew I wanted a 3D printer because a lot of companies now, instead of sending me physical models, they're sending me 3D files.
Yeah.
And the printers I was using, or like the people printed out for me, weren't very good. Details were malformed. Some of the resin wasn't even cured in some instances. It didn't show the sculpt off, and it didn't show me in the best light either. So I contacted a gentleman called Joe, who goes by, let me make sure I got this, the Emperor's Path, I think it is.
Oh, I should have gone with Gentleman Joe.
Gentleman Joe. So he's changed it now to Giacomo B's hobby page.
Okay.
So that's Joe, who is an expert when it comes to, like, he is the goddamn Rain Man of 3D printing. And he was doing 3D prints for me until, he could no longer continue doing it.
Because you'd worked him too hard. You'd worked his fingers to the
So I've
bone.
worked him too hard. No, he changed apartments. No, it's nothing more sinister than that. And isn't yeah, she's not gonna watch this. The new landlord's a bitch as well. Yeah, she's horrible.
Right.
So like, all the equipment I bought him to do the 3D printing, I got, and I've had sat in the studio for like 6 months.
Yeah.
And I've been press and print failing, press and print failing, press and print failing. Again, sort of a good sculpt. Ooh, okay, this is good.
Yeah.
So my entire experience of 3D printing has felt like an abusive relationship, where I'm being told like you should just leave them. You know, they're no good for you. Like, I got resin on my hands. The place stinks. Like, they might have isopropyl alcohol. Like, just leave.
That's so. What you're describing there, Miles, that's the standard of everyone.
Yeah.
So I've been 3D printing for a few years now, between a couple of different armies and like even different printer types, and everyone that you speak to, even people that are doing it, like I know a couple of people that run print services, and that is just the experience. Like that, you just got to be constantly having resin stink and IPA stink, spillages every now and then.
Just when you're going to leave, just when you think I'm going to sell this stuff, it doesn't work. You'll get a sort of good print, or you'll get something that's just completely immaculate. It's like somebody a partner buying you some flowers, or telling you they're taking you out for the night. You think, oh, you know, they're not all bad. I'll stay.
No, but that's it. It's because sometimes, for no reason at all, It just works.
Yeah.
Rather than the other way around, where sometimes for no reason at all it doesn't work.
Yeah.
Sometimes for no reason at all it just works. And that gives you the
Mm.
glimmer of hope that this could
Mm.
change, that you could get
Yeah.
out of this situation.
Mm-hmm.
And that I've actually, even now, like I've had the current printer for sort of 9 months and I've been
Mm-hmm.
printing fairly consistently on it.
Mm.
My experience for that was it worked for the first 3 months. From the first time I put the print on, for 3 months, it just completely worked. And then just
Mm.
randomly didn't for a month.
Oh,
And then in
great.
changing, nothing as well. And it wasn't the heat. I've already been using a heat coil like around
Right.
the
So those are some of the common issues, right?
yeah,
That
yeah.
I've
You
been
just
putting up my miscast. I've been okay, and the same question seems to be popping up. What's your exposure time? What is the heat? Is there any drafts? What kind of resin are you using? And what kind of slicer are you using? So those are the four common things that kept occurring again and again and again. So when you started 3D printing, Max, what were the main issues that you were having?
and this is going to be very reduction. It's bed level, just every single time.
Uh,
Is like
right.
90% of the issues with bed
It
level.
wasn't sitting correct, or
Yeah, yeah, it's slightly misaligned. So that, and we're talking resin 3D printers here. It was
yes, yeah.
slightly
So I'm
misaligned.
using a Frozen Sonic 8K. What are you using?
So I started on an Elegoo Mars Pro,
Uh-huh.
and now
Yeah.
I'm using a Saturn 3 Pro, or Saturn
Okay.
3 Ultra, something like that. So the print bed got a lot bigger, and so
Okay.
on the Mars, which has a smaller print bed
Hmm.
level was a problem, and then moving up, weirdly temperature became a problem because the resin vat was bigger,
Uh-huh.
and that meant it wasn't consistently heated all the way through.
Right.
Like one side could be cold and one side could be hot, so I was getting failures across the
So
print bed
this
when the
this
room was fine.
this pissed me off in a big way. So, about a couple of months into resin printing, I was getting sort of good results. I could never get a consistent bed. Like I put all my stuff on Cheat box, slice it all up. This is what Joe recommended. Other people have recommended Lychee, but Joe he's tweaked my settings on Cheat box. So I thought I'll persist with this because I've got these good settings. I don't want to transfer it over. Print them off. I never get a full bed. I'll get bits that are perfect, but the rest have come away. They've this.
Any sort of
What?
consistency to what areas?
No, that was the problem as well because there
Classic,
wasn't. So this is
classic.
another thing. This is another thing I was told. Oh, there might be some areas on the bed that just won't work because every printer is different, and some printers will just have that little bit of bed where you do not print on at all because it will always fail. Don't know why. It's cursed.
Do you know at that point
Great.
I'd buy another screen because they are replaceable parts. Buy another screen and put that on.
But
So
I can
if that's a
guarantee you,
problem that you're having,
if I if I did buy another screen, I'd still have the same issue inconsistently because it wasn't like it was misprinting on that part of the screen. It would be on different parts every single time.
surely
So
that's a
that
screen issue.
indicate
Or
uh,
the bed might be. And this is the annoyance of 3D printers, right? Because there's
yes,
so many potential solutions. And
uh-huh.
this is actually coming round to we love 3D printing. But
Yes,
it's
yeah, we will be more
like,
positive, yeah,
yeah,
because
but
3D when it works, oh my god, it's like hitting a baseball bat, it's a baseball when it's coming, and like you thwack it or like a cricket ball,
and you get a
and you just
six
feel.
in
Oh, you
baseball.
just feel like the wood vibrate, and you know you've made that clean connection, and there's such a good feeling when you do get it working.
Yeah,
But you do have to suffer for it.
yeah. And it's just
But that's the
there's
thing.
so
Like, there's
many
so many things.
inconsistent
So you
things.
tweak one thing, and it might put something else off, and then you tweak that thing, it might put something else off, and then it might just. So one day I came in, the complete thing was destroyed. Just did not print at all. I thought I'm going to try. I'm going to put my fist through this. I'm just going to throw it against the wall. But it turned out I didn't screw the top on,
Yeah.
which made me angrier because like it's human error.
Do you know what, Miles? It's like listening to me a year and a half ago. That's what I feel I'm
Yeah.
listening to right now, because these are all things that it's mistakes we all make, or you're such a meticulous person that
Yeah.
I cannot reach that level of meticulousness.
And so, I mean, I have to get the prints looking as good as they possibly can because it's work for company. So
That's
it's
the
work for
point
my,
for you, yeah.
So it has to pass that eye test where it's just absolutely perfect.
Yeah, because that's not a problem that I tend to. I do some, and it's not quite perfect, and I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm not going to be showing off the actual print.
Mm.
It's that I'm not going to be videoing myself painting it at base resin level.
Yeah.
So I'm just like, I'll just weather that bit, or put a bit of mud over that bit, or do one of a million fixes because I'm not actually showing off the sculpt.
Sure.
I can
Yeah.
get away with a bit more.
Oh no, Max. And another thing I have to bring up. That okay, a couple of months into 3D printing, you recommended an ale heater, like this little almost like LED strip that you could place in your print.
Yeah.
Mead, yeah, to keep the resin warm. And this just drove me over the edge. Like, how much more does this thing need to work? Like, nobody recommend. Like, it doesn't come with a heater. Why didn't it come with a heater if resin likes to be hot? Why not put a heater inside it? But I felt like I was a kid again, where I very proudly displayed my Mordian Iron Guard Lieutenant, and it had chipped in the case. I thought, why did it chip? I put it in the case. I used Games Workshop paints. I used Games Workshop glue. Why did it chip? Oh, you need to varnish it as well. God damn! In an already expensive hobby, I need to do like another thing. It's the same with this 3D printer. Like, what else? What other hipster device do I need to buy just to make this goddamn thing work?
Yeah. Now that gets worse for like PLA and filament printers, because so one of my friends, Tom Carley, hey Tom, he contacted he bought an Elegoo Neptune, or I think it was a Neptune, and he got loads of experience doing resin prints, was getting them perfect, like like very consistent. So bought a filament printer, couldn't get it to work, contacted customer service, and he was like, this just hasn't worked right. I know, like, it's been set up right. It's been set up by people that have set up theirs right. It's just not working.
Yeah.
Have you got any tips? And they're like, well, we don't offer that kind of customer service for filament printers because people see them as projects rather than as devices
Oh
to
my
make. So,
God.
like, the printer is the project in itself. And buying additional bits, because they're much more interchangeable filament printers. You don't just buy a product and that is your printer. It's like, oh, you want to change like the filament drive or the hot end or the X axis, Z axis, whatever, and that is like another level of buying new stuff. I've actually just last week gave away my filament printer to someone and said, here is a next to new Creality End of 3 version 2. It printed me a full table and like a number of other pieces of terrain. I have now put the cost of the printer again into like other parts to try and fix it.
Yeah.
If I put any more money into it, I'm just buying a new printer because it's paid for itself. I probably even doubled the amount if I'd have just bought the terrain separately. So it saved me money still, but time and input cost, I've doubled the cost of that printer in there.
Yeah, and the time it takes to research this stuff as well. Okay, so everything I own, all my devices around me are Apple because I'm an idiot. I want something I can buy out of the box and it just works. I don't care about tweaking it, about buying extra parts. I just want something on the shelf. I could go, does that work? Yeah, mate, it'll do a job. Great. Pick it up, plonk it down. 3D printing at the moment feels like the world before Google was invented. Do you remember how you used to search for pages before Google?
Ask Jeeves.
It was a bit of a nightmare, right?
Yeah,
Unless you
it wasn't
knew,
great.
ask Jeeves. It was hard to navigate. And that's what 3D printing feels like right now, a world without a search engine, where I am waiting for this revolution, for this idiot-proof technology to come
Yeah.
along and say, to take all the pressure, like, don't worry, mate, we got you. You take this file, we'll auto support. You press auto support, it will auto support it perfectly. Everything, you don't have to touch it. Bang, hit a button, hit another button to slice it up, and then put it through to your printer, and bang, it works 99% of the time. That's what I'm waiting for.
I dream of a world, Miles, where where you buy your excellently sculpted STL off the internet.
Yeah.
And you just from your phone, just send it to your printer without having to have set it up
wirelessly.
And it
you just flick it.
Yeah. Go and print that for me, and you don't need to set up a print bed or anything. It just does it for you.
Don't need to buy a little mead heating system around it.
Yeah, anyone that's having problems with their print bed, the temperature of the resin, get this mead heater. It's 12 quid.
You need sort of like a solar flare insulator, or you need something to level it against the movement of the earth.
Mate, you should see some of the contraptions. In fact, let's stop for a sec. So what we've got here is, this is actually for a filament printer, but people make them for resin printers. And I was just saying to Miles as I pulled up the picture, think of the sheer annoyance that must have been had by this person. And this is like quite ingenious, this heated chamber made out of foam. It's a cube, but the amount of effort to engineer this with, say, like a base plate that's like will distribute the heat and not melt the foam. It will have wires through at various points. He's got some contraption on the top of it, like maybe that's just to extend the height. But people make these, but the sheer volume of failures that you must have had to have before engineering this and deciding that, oh fine, I'm gonna have to, it must be so high, because it's a lot of effort, and to just whack that into your room to be able to just get a printout.
So when we were talking before the cast, we were chatting about fostering new skills. So students go through this quite a lot. They get frustrated when they want to learn how to glaze, when they want to load up the brush. New things that they may not have experienced before. Yeah. It's very easy to become frustrated with the simple things, like loading up a brush, applying a base coat to a miniature. Seems simple, right? Until you're shown how to do it properly, and then you start to see like, oh, this is why things are fails. This is why it's streaky. I'm undergoing this at the moment with 3D printing, and the amount of times where I've just wanted to bin it off, like I'm not doing this anymore. And I always tell my students, how high is your tolerance for discomfort?
Yeah.
We're not talking about like Muay Thai fighting or like being in the trenches or anything.
That is what I brought up when you said tolerance for discomfort.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, by no means am I comparing this level of discomfort to that, but it is disquieting. Let's put it that way. To attempt something where seemingly everyone does effortlessly. All people do is just press print. Oh, I got this file out perfectly. What are you doing wrong, bro? Why am I not doing this? Is it the machine? Is it the settings? Is it me? It's you. It's always you.
But it feels like that. It definitely feels like that. That everyone else is an expert. And you are going through this. So I agree with you there. So,
and it would have been so easy to think, this isn't working for me. I'm just going to bin it off. It's taken me around 4 months to get to the point where I'm able to consistently produce high quality, flawless print beds. But the amount of resin it's taken to do that, the amount of communication I've had to have with Joe and just bitching on my own Discord, the amount of times where I've gone home just feeling defeated, and anxious about doing it the next day, like this black cloud over me, and then to go in the next day and do it again, and again and again. So whenever you try and foster a new skill or a new discipline, you have to consider how high is your tolerance for this kind of discomfort. And if you are able to overcome it, the rewards are there for you.
Yeah, because I think the actual rewards for 3D printing I think we see this actually differently, to be honest, because the rewards for 3D printing for me aren't large. They're not high quality models. It's the
Okay.
ability to take things from multiple places that definitely
Mm.
wouldn't be produced as a model by Games
Okay.
Workshop or any big company. It's the ability to take an idea that you've got in your head and throughout this massively crowdsourced repository of STL files,
Mm.
scale those files to any size, and then create
Mm.
combinations that just
Mm.
makes pop out of your head what you've got in your head. So it's just the
It's so weird. It's so weird you say that. Sorry to interrupt you, but that's what I'm doing now. Next, that's my next, I guess, like stage of evolution. Because I've Terminators. I want to print out for my Chaos Black Legion.
yeah,
But I found these really nice chunky Terminators, but they don't have the Chaos symbols.
yeah,
So I'm finding other sources with like Chaos spikes and guns. I'm evolved. Yes.
yeah.
Okay. So what frustrations can I expect about future?
No, it's if you it's I would don't stop expecting the
Uh,
all of these problems to go away. They'll just change into new problems, and they'll be less
okay.
frequent. Like
Uh-huh.
like this winter, I got some
Mm,
problems because I moved into a new house since I'd last been
mm,
printing, or it
okay.
had been the first winter since I'd been printing
Mm,
in the new house. So therefore, I got some problems because it was
okay.
different ambient temperature in the room.
Mm,
Now, so that was just a new thing that popped up, and I just had to sort it, and
mm,
it was very frustrating for a time. But they get less interspersed because you'll just be like, "Oh, I've had this problem before. It's
mm,
this," and then you just try it, or you like cycle through the muscle memory of what fixes
mm.
your printer when it goes wrong, and you're like, "Oh,
Okay.
it's
Yeah.
this one." But yeah, I think that's what to expect on like an annoyance terms.
Hmm.
But I think from like a positivity terms, because I think that's the really where we were going with this segment,
Absolutely.
was
Yes.
you wanted to talk about it because you had some like let's pull them up and then I can go into
Well, yeah.
like the opposite way.
So I've got a whole video series on setting up a 3D printer that like just base noob like me, somebody who doesn't know anything about 3D printing at all. I had
Mm,
Joe over for a weekend. He showed me like what a 3D printer is, like that basic level of knowledge, how to set it up, how to take files and put them onto a slide. It's from the very base up. I've got this entire series, but I didn't really want to launch it until I had a better idea to answer questions on the subject.
mm,
And I wanted to put myself through the process of learning this and dealing with the frustrations. So there's no point in me producing a how-to video if I don't know how to.
yeah, yeah,
I feel like I
sounds
know how
reasonable.
now. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just one of those things that it will become something that lets you spit out
Hmm.
just the ideas in your head
Hmm.
that otherwise you wouldn't be able to do. So I've made like in the past, this I've just popped up my Chaos Dragon. Now,
So
because
nice.
my because my horde, my Kurgan horde, was based on the
Uh-huh.
Way 2 clan, which is like a Kurgan Far East tribe near Cathay, like Mongol,
Did you say
let's
Wu
say.
Tang?
The Way 2. Way
Oh,
2.
way too. Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
But that the clan clearly like inspires that name.
The Wu
So
Tang Clan.
yeah.
Nice.
So I was like, right, dragon, Mongolian dragon, very close to a Chinese dragon, except it's got like fur over the back.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, right, how do I get a Chinese dragon? And this is actually the Kung Fu Panda dragon that I turned to the fur disguises where I've turned the head. But what I
Oh, that's
did is I just
awesome.
found from anywhere that I wanted. Just
Uh huh.
I want a dragon. The one that most fit was happened to be the Kung Fu Panda dragon.
Yeah.
So I got the Kung Fu Panda dragon and scaled it right for a Chaos Lord to sit on top of it. So it's
Mm-hmm.
just those sparks of ideas that you can
Mm-hmm.
just have and do that I think is the best for 3D printing. Like currently, I'm thinking, and I'm revealing this early, so hopefully no one steals my idea of doing it. I was thinking Tomb Kings. Phil was mithering me like, oh, you got to have a dragon in Tomb Kings because it looks cool, and I was like, I actually don't particularly like the alligator bone dragon that they do, but I got this 3D snake skeleton that's like an articulated skeleton, and I was like, I'm gonna make a big bone cobra that coils in and out of the desert, and then has like my Tomb King sat on top of the head. So it allowed me to then get sort of like I think this is a 9th age sculpt of a cobra, like a death cobra, whatever they call it, that I then inserted the head on, and you can just see at the bottom of it, I'm starting to. This was just to get the scale, but to insert the ribs of the snake that I'm going to join together with coat hanger wire. So just like
okay.
so I'm going to make the frame of it with a coat hanger wire like drilled through the center.
Is
So I can
that too tough to bend, or you might want
I'm
to use
only
a
going to do
florist
one.
wire?
I'm only going to do one. It's really heavy at the top because that skull and cobra
Okay.
bit is like a
I'd
solid object.
I'd still recommend get some florist wire just to try. It's cheap enough. It's a lot more flexible. It's a lot more bendy. But this is where you tell me you've already done it.
No. It's sat waiting to be cured at the moment because I finished my Bretonians in the last week that I showed last week, and was like, right, I need the next thing for my Bretonians. So I've been looking throughout all this entire thing. The Villain Knights from Reconquer Designs, that because my Bretonians were going to have a very specific look, I've for a few months now been looking at Reconquer Designs for the historicals, and just allowing that, as I said before, the scale up. I could take a historical miniature, scale it up by 10%, it ended up on these. And then actually the horses you can scale by in the different direction, like, so I could make them fatter or wider, and I did that by another 5%, and it then matched Games Workshop's horse sizes for like the old 6th edition horses. So it's the ability of 3D printing to just be like, I've got this idea in my head. Norman Knights didn't quite fit the look that I wanted. They were too heavily armoured, because I was using Victrix models for my Huskarls on foot. But someone has made what I had in my head, but not quite, because they need to be slightly different. So these just needed scaling, the snake skeletons, combining someone's articulated skeleton of a normal snake with like Tomb King-esque looking cobra bits.
Yeah.
I think that's the best bit of 3D printing, is you've got
mashing stuff together.
Mashing stuff together. There's thousands of people making stuff, and you can usually find reasonable approximations of what you're looking for, and then spend a little bit of time bashing them together. Like my Solar Auxilia that are on the channel, I didn't take any pictures of them actually, it's stupid, I should have. I really wanted them with weapons teams, so I made weapons teams for them that you can see if you watch the channel. And I wanted Piat launchers instead of melter guns. So I've got this weird mix of like Ket and Krads carrying around Nebelwerfers with Solar Auxilia in, and then like weapons teams with las cannons and dudes carrying Piat launchers for this weird sort of like World War II-esque Solar Auxilia. And it's just, that is my joy of 3D printing. It's not because the reason I'm saying this is the ability to create your own models from your head, to me, is worthwhile all that stress. If I was just looking at it from a monetary perspective or something like that, I'd just keep buying models, man. Like, it's like to have similar models to just anywhere else.
I think right now,
it's worth people getting into 3D printing for that.
Absolutely. I think for maybe casual users, the wrong term. Just for I think unless you're willing to put at least 3 months worth of hard work and effort and a lot of money down the drain, a lot of resin down the drain, dealing with the stink, dealing with the isopropyl alcohol, just dealing with all the hassle and headaches around it, 3D printing just simply isn't worth it at the moment. It's not user friendly. It's the early days of having a computer. So I remember my first computer. A friend who worked in IT had to come over and install the thing.
Yeah.
Spend about an hour, like putting all the systems into it. And whenever I turned the computer on, I had to put a prompt in. It wouldn't just load up with the user interface. Like I had to put in like MS DOS and hit a button, and then it would pop up.
How old are you?
That's what ancient. I feel older every day.
I thought we were similar in age, but like,
no, I'm way
you're
older.
dating yourself out there.
Yeah. Unless you were willing to, that's what 3D printing feels like at the moment. It's just not a very user-friendly space right now. But the potential, I think in the next 5 years, 3D printing is going to develop a lot more ease of use.
Yeah.
Where idiots like me come in, just buy a printer, like hit play, and away you go. And I think a 3D printer is going to be absolutely, it's going to be so important to the life of every hobbyist to buy one and have one in their home, because the amount of sculptors that are out there, producers, like things like you're doing, able to like mash things up together. So should we talk about some of our favorite producers, some of our favorite 3D sculptors at the moment?
Yes, but I need to find one more that's popped back into my head.
Yes.
So we're back after actually just a second away because Miles has got builders in the background.
They decided to just start drilling outside my office, like directly underneath my office, just...
Yeah.
3D printing.
Well,
3D printing.
I just wanted to get in, Miles, that if we considered saying, oh, do you mind just moving down there? And then I thought, oh, actually, I used to work as a builder, and if somebody had said, will you cut over there? I'd be like, well, I can't say it. Can I say it on this cast, Miles?
No, I want to monetize this. No.
Right, okay. Okay. Right.
No, but people can imagine what kind of word,
Yes.
and it rhymes with hunt.
And that's only one of the multiple words I would have used.
Yes.
Yes.
Streaming up at me. 3D printing, though, is a much nicer community to be a part of. And, once you do get your 3D printer up and running, there are so many fantastic sculptors out there, which we want to highlight a couple just off the top of our head. There are just way too many to mention in this section. It's a video all in its own, but these are the people we've been printing off recently. So what's the image we got up on screen right now?
The first one is the Solar Auxilia, like, war suit, I'm going to call it. Is that Lord Marshal Irae Cedric, or whatever he's called? Ixion?
It's the non-IP version of that, yes.
Right, okay.
But this is made by Edgar Swarovski. I'm awfully sorry, Edgar, if I've mispronounced that, which I inevitably have. But the entire Solar Ox range was made in his spare time. The designs, the sculpting was all done in his own spare time, which he then sold to Forge World. And he's left the company. I think he works for Cool Mini or not now, and as an independent sculptor, he's decided to make this miniature, which has very strong visual echoes and tie-ins with the Solar Auxilia range. So if you did want to use this character within it, I'm being very careful here. I don't want to get in trouble. You can absolutely do so. So unfortunately, at time of recording, this is the very last day you're able to buy the STL for this miniature. But there will be future releases. He's going to be making more of this. So it's well worth us including in here just to show off the kind of quality that you can get through the sculptor and look forward to future releases through him. Yeah,
because it's worth keeping an eye out on a lot of the people that do those short-term releases, just in case they pop up again, because they some things do every now and then. So
yeah.
So we thought we'd highlight it because of the quality of that, as Miles said. Next, we've got your Blood Bowl team that you won't stop banging on about.
I love this Blood Bowl team. So when I wanted to try out the 3D printer, I wanted to really push it. I wanted thin, fluted, delicate sculpts, which I think these hit the mark of. This is from a company or a guy called Brute Fun Miniatures, and you can actually download his Orc Warlord STL completely for free.
Is that the
I'll
one that
put a
you sent
link.
through?
This is the one I've sent through.
So it's on screen now. Right.
Of the Orc, yeah. Now you could download this miniature completely and utterly for free. There will be a link in the description below directly to this. But when I've been learning about 3D printing, one of the things I appreciate from producers like this is how much time and how much effort they put into the supports. Because there's one thing buying an STL file and then finding it's unsupported. For me, that's, oh God, why? Having a well-supported file is as important to me as the actual sculpt itself. I won't buy a miniature if it comes unsupported.
Really?
Right. Yeah. I don't know how to do. Again, I'm still learning about this stuff. I don't know the difference between a well-supported miniature and a badly supported miniature until I come to print it. This guy's prints, the file support he has for them are top grade. Even when I was failing to print a lot of stuff, his would consistently come through my printer.
Right. Okay.
So even with the impediment, even with the hindrance of me dealing with them, it worked. Worked every single time. And the results, I think, speak for themselves. I mean, just look how the chainmail, the teeth, the delicacy of the sculpt, which I don't think, it's quite rare to find sculpts this delicate in our community.
Are these ones that you've printed out that you've sent through?
These are ones that I have printed out. Yes.
So with the red splash on, that's
the I've got like a red light behind them to highlight
but
them.
just to establish that they're in fact your print.
Yes.
They're really good. They're really good.
Yes. They don't have any of those sort of like is it aliasing line, like those little thumbprint lines on them. I've tried to eradicate those as much as possible. All the details have come out nice and fluted and very sharp. Like it's a very, very crisp sculpt. The only criticism I can give of these sculpts is that they are so delicate that when you pick them up, not when you pick them up, when you drop them, like inevitably you will drop them, or when you take them off the supports, sometimes the very sharp edges get blunted a little bit.
Yeah. Now that was something, just as a very quick anecdote, like we were talking about before, and I recommended. Everyone has their own solutions to all of these problems, but mine, I really like Soraya Tech Tenacious. It's like you get a litre of it for 60 quid, but you just mix that in at like 10%, or if something's really snappy, I'll mix 25% in to normal resin, and it just gives it that bit of flex that keeps the print from just like being so glass shattery. Yeah. So it's just, if anyone's having problems with that at home, it's worth. Because that's an easy solution as well. Like
just a mix in. I'm using Frozen 8K Aqua Grey, which it has a little bit of bend, a little bit of flex to it, but it is very brittle. It is noticeably more brittle than, say, like Forge Wheel resin or plastic.
Yeah, and you can play with your settings to like get a more flexible resin. But like compare that to just, well, I'll spend 60 quid and mix it at a 10% ratio. Yes, my bottles of resin are £6 more expensive now, but I've not had to play with anything to get it to work. I've just mixed in the resin.
I will take that option. No, I'll try that next time. Yeah, that's really reassuring. And it's the only criticism I can find with these sculpts. Excellently priced, well supported. The guy has a Patreon, and you can buy files individually through his My Mini factory account.
Yeah.
So I can highly recommend this sculptor.
Right. There we go. There, can everyone hear it in the background?
Let's do it.
So next on this, I've pulled up Highlands Miniatures, and it's actually really nice for a generic fantasy usable in any fantasy war game. Armies and models. So here I have a dwarf anvil user who is stood in front of some magic dwarven stones, and it's just a really nice model. It's got hallmarks to certain companies' styles, and It's got a real nice, like, do you know when we were talking the other day about how nice, say, like the 5th edition models are to paint?
Yeah.
These,
Hmm.
when I was painting Bretonians, like in January, February, these were what I was using as like a breather away from that, because the
Hmm.
paint just went down really easily on the model and nicely,
Hmm.
and was just
Hmm.
an enjoyable brush feel. The paint
Yeah.
marmy was high
Yeah.
on these.
I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah,
Okay.
and
Making
they've
with
got
it.
ranges for lots of fantasy armies between like skeletons, vampires, dwarves, generic fantasy knights, all that sort of stuff. So it's worth checking out. Highlands, amazing stuff. Then you wanted to do the Necromunda that you've been printing.
The Necromunda miniature, yes. Now this is from another ex-Forge World sculptor. His company is called Dead Earth Miniatures, and he has released a range of socialites like this.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and again, one thing I want to pay particular attention to is the chain leading from his ear to his nose. Just how delicately that's come out, how well defined that comes through the 8K printer. I'm noticing a couple of little pock marks through here. He has an excellent jock strap, which I think would be the envy of any downtrodden underhiver.
Mm-hmm.
Big
Mm-hmm.
flamboyant
Of
haircut.
course, of
And
course.
when you're talking about like things with a nice brush feel underneath it, uh, the the Blood Bowl stuff looks phenomenal, but I do wonder just how hard I'll have to work with expressing the details because they are so
Mm.
small and the details so tense. Whereas the Socialite sculpt, the Necromunda sculpt, has slightly more exaggerated proportions, which will, I think, give it a much more nicer feel under the brush. Uh, but it remains to be seen until I actually paint the things. And it's great that he knows the scale of Necromunda. He knows the style. He's sculpted a lot. I think he sculpted the new Spyros that are coming out in this new box set. But he sculpted like a lot of things in the range.
Yeah,
So
but you can
another
sort of see
producer.
that within this, like within the socialite, that he's got all of those hallmarks, as you say,
Mhm.
of like cyberpunk mixed with
Yeah,
grimdark.
yeah. It's like the old Brat Gang that he's recreating, and he does have a few rat skins on the on his Patreon, Dead Earth Miniatures Patreon.
Ah, I could really flesh out my rat skin guy because I've got like the mid era of rat skins when they went back
Mhm.
to do them.
Yeah.
I loved
Mhm.
using that gang. It was like
Uh-huh.
amazing to use them. Oh, maybe they'll be making a return if there's more models to add to them.
I I'm not too sure because he has like a non-competitive
Oh no, I mean in
contract,
my
right?
particular like case, they'll be making a return
Oh
to me
right, sure. Oh
because
yeah. And I do wonder as well, like on like a macro scale, like the cultural insensitivity maybe for rat skins. I don't want to get into that argument, but I can understand that there might why you wouldn't maybe want to get into that arena because they were always depicted as
I can see
being
why
quite
Games
fond
Workshop
of
wouldn't,
drink.
but
Yeah.
will I take that on a personal level of me using them from someone that has been painting Praetorian Guard?
Yep. Hands up. Yeah, we're all
Touche.
imperialists. In fact, the very notion of 3D printing is imperialistic. How about that for an argument? Oh my god.
And let's move back to this.
Yeah.
So the brush feel of painted models
Brush feel. Yeah.
is like I've pulled up the Reconquer designs again because
Uh-huh.
this is something that I keep considering from
Yeah.
various sources, like historical miniatures. And one of the things is especially chainmail around them.
Okay.
It doesn't
Yes.
have nice
Good point.
brush feels, but
Yeah.
it's something that is I think inescapable from some designs
Mhm.
and that's the same on the actual chainmail bits of the Highlands miniatures
Yeah.
weren't the nicest because there's just no good way of making a chainmail that paints well. I don't think,
Mhm.
or at least it's been my experience. Maybe you've got tips
Yeah.
on painting it in a way that's just like
Just dry brush it. Just close your eyes. Take the biggest dry brush you can and dry brush them.
yeah. So it appears we are the same, but
Yes.
yeah, like so the Reconquer designs, and then I've also been looking at Black Knight miniatures. These I actually talked about them on like the second episode
Mhm.
because I was considering these foot knights. These are Teutonic foot knights to use as my foot knights in my Bretonians,
Mm.
which are just absolutely fabulous. As well as then these Northern Crusades also do. They do
Mm.
less units, but much more varied than any other source, like individual
Mm.
models. So this one that I've pulled up now is like mid joust or
Mm.
like even warfare because it's got. I suppose one guy's got a morning star out, but
Mhm.
it's the variation there even comes down to in Northern Crusades. When I came to get these pictures, it's like, oh my god, they've got loads of medieval ships, and it's just amazing, amazing models. Whether that translates through to nice brush feel on specifically the chainmail, I don't know, but
I often
inescapable.
find on historicals because they scaled like as human proportions, but then scaled down.
Yeah,
Whereas Games Workshop stuff, like it's good stuff with good brush feel. I mean, Ogrins I really love painting because they have those big exaggerated features to them. Yeah, a lot of historical. I think the Blood Bowl team falls into that arena of more of a historical scaling for
mm.
them. So while they are the supreme sculpts, and I have no idea how they're going to feel under the brush, I think they're going to be amazing. Maybe more suitable for airbrush work and like zenithal lighting and just picking out certain details with the brush rather than developing with the brush alone, like the Necromunda stuff. Remains to be seen and changes for every person.
Yeah, and it's one thing I would love to see, and this would be far too much effort for these creators to do. I'm sure it would be like heroic scaled of these historical miniatures, whether that just wouldn't sell at all to the historical markets. Because you can scale them up by like 10%, 15%,
Yeah.
but it doesn't help with that paintability. And this
Mm-hmm.
is
Yeah.
like the wishful thinking part of it because I'm
Mm-hmm.
specifically using these historical models
Yeah.
for heroic scale games. But that would be so good. Um,
Yeah.
Yeah. Next, I've pulled up that Evil One's Lunar Auxilia, and this you can see all the
Uh-huh.
time on the channel
Yeah.
because this is one of the things of I had an idea in my head how I wanted an army to look. Like as I said, changing out for Piats and Kettenkrads and weapons teams. What's really nice about that Evil One's Lunar Auxilia is that you can edit them really easily because
Mm-hmm.
he's done them all in what's called separate shells. So each of the ribbed arms and legs, and even just like the armor plates, the head, like literally each face on the head is all separate. So if you put it into an editor, you can just essentially, I'm going to say click and drag, but essentially just click and drag them around to change the poses and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a really good. It makes you feel like a pro that you're like reposing these models digitally because they're just really nice to be able to edit yourself and get a different feel to an army.
Mm-hmm. Oh, another great thing is also with this Blood Bowl team I've been dealing with,
Mm.
the ability to take a linesman. I think, oh, I need another linesman, but I don't want to print out exactly the same one. Mirror.
Oh, yes, yeah, yeah. Well, that comes
I
into
love
everything.
that.
That comes in so much to so many things that you just
Games
like
Workshop have used
double
that
models.
tool a lot. They've used that tool a lot recently. So it's nice to be able to do it myself. Mirror, mirror,
Didn't they do
mirror.
it really obviously with the sword guard for the Ultramarines a couple of years ago, when it was
Yeah,
literally an identical model reversed?
yeah, yeah.
Ah, like error, error. Next we've got Soul White Studios'
Yes,
High Priest Covenants of Ast- Astari, like whatever this is called, the
yeah.
the Magos that just
The
looks
not
incredible.
mech.
Yes, yeah, yeah, and
Uh-huh.
because I've used these for about half my mech to
Hmm.
get that more like evil mech feel to them, which I think, and it's just an incredible, incredible range of models. And I've also used some of the vehicles for my solar.
So I read online talking about Sol White that she is able to speak the language of 40k so beautifully, but not directly take designs, not scan designs and put it over. Rather, she has like almost like the architecture of like the base principles of these designs, and she's able to like recombine them and create these things. Definitely worth checking out the Patreon. She has these larger knight equivalent models that she very kindly gave me a couple of the groin plates from to do a weathering masterclass in the Adepticon. Right. Great for that. Oh, and the 3D printing is great if you want to practice the technique, if you want to try something new, paint a face, paint a sword, just print off a bunch of swords. You don't have to buy them. They're all exact. 3D printing, once you go over the frustration, it really is the future. It really, really is the future. And, you know, we don't have to delve too much into this, but it exists, how people are scanning older miniatures, out of production miniatures, and producing 3D files of them. I have no idea where you could get them from, and I'm not sure the legality of them.
One thing I've found with that is they tend to look terrible.
Yes.
Like, it's like the technology isn't there yet, I wouldn't say. It's like they all tend to be very bumpy and horrible and
because the surfaces they're scanning from are imperfect, right? But it's I guess it's encouraging to see that classic miniatures that are no longer available and will never be available, like stuff from like Rogue Trader days. In fact, you know, Games Workshop are never going to do another reproduce, but people will have fond memories that there will hopefully be in the future some sort of digital library for these sculpts where people will be able to access.
Yeah, which is one of the things is like scanners are made for like larger objects. They're not made for these like 28mm scale objects. They're made for things like this big or like football pitch sized on it from a drone.
So. Mate, just wait until you get technology on your phone where you just pick up a miniature, take a couple of bad blurry photos of it, and it's able to translate into a perfect 3D model for you.
Perfect.
That's the future. Yeah. That's the future. Oh, and we let's reiterate, this is only a small sampling of the producers that are out there. I want to mention Wilf. The kind of designs that he's doing at the moment are unbelievable sculpts. He's done a couple of sculpts for me, and you know, let's tell people about this. Why not? Reconquered Designs, phenomenal sculptor. Love the style he is sculpting in. So we've been chatting with each other, and I wanted something special to give patrons at the end of the Old World Challenge. So we get a miniature sculpted by him. And I'm not sure whether you want to put up the very rough work in progress picture that we have.
Right, so here it is. Very early stage.
Very, very early work in progress picture. So this will be available through Little Legend Studio Patreon. And it will only be through there. You can buy this miniature when it does get released. It is incredibly, incredibly early days to be showing this off. But I thought, why not? Why not tease? Why not tickle?
Tickle the fancy. Tickle the fancy.
Tickle the fancy of our listenership and watchership out there. So you can expect this. Can you guess what it is? Can you guess what miniature is based on? What it will become? Put in the comments below.
No, if you can, go over to my channel and subscribe to my channel as well.
Subscribe, hit that bell, subscribe to that Patreon, send us mail, send us pen letters, yeah.
So, moving on from 3D printing, I have finished my Bretonnian Exile Brigands, and I've got the Brigands, and I was actually... They were sat on my desk for so long, I just needed to finish them more than get them perfect. I'm actually quite happy with how the dogs turned out.
They look great.
Very little effort.
Yeah.
Like, it was a very simple, just like blend down, like wet blend down for the. This
isn't what you're going to be judged on as a miniature painter. So last week I posted pictures of my dogs for the Warriors of Chaos. All I did was just dry brush the bloody hell out of them, put orange fluorescent on the eyes, and left them. I'm not going to be judged as a miniature painter.
Yeah.
Weirdly enough, it has the most engagement of anything I posted that week. But I'm not going to be judged on that. So it's perfectly fine just to smash and get it out there.
Yeah, yeah. Well, as well, people will be looking at the knights and things like that in the army.
Yeah.
Because I
How can
almost
we
like
looking
at
at
the
the dwarves?
start, I wanted them to be background characters. Even if my idea originally was that if I ever took a picture of the peasants, there'd be a
Mm.
knight in the foreground.
Mm.
But I don't think
Mm-hmm.
it's going to work with how like I shoot games. I think
Mm.
like every picture of the peasants would have a knight in prominence.
Mm.
But yeah, I just don't think it's going to work. But one thing that I do think has been successful, the basing,
Mm.
as like I've used like dried moss,
Mm.
a
Dirt.
dirt is obviously featured heavily.
Actual dirt.
Yeah, uh, I've got the reeds I've made from like a wallpaper glue brush and just clipped it off and stuck it into
Oh.
the dirt when it was wet.
Oh, that's clever.
Yeah,
Okay.
and it just looks like a. And then I'd maybe need to like
Tall
make
reeds.
the heights more varied
Mm-hmm.
on like a couple of them. But
Mm.
I'm happy with how they've turned out, and it's actually on the ogre. This is another thing that will come into 3D printing. I bought a Games Workshop model. There are no Saxon shields or late Saxon Anglo-Dane shields, round shields that
Mm-hmm.
are big enough to go with this ogre. And all my Games Workshop models have got round shields on them for this army. So I need an
Mm-hmm.
ogre-sized round shield. How am I going to do that? Well, I'm just going to take a 3D printed bit and slap it onto a Games Workshop model, and it's going to look perfect. You're welcome, Games Workshop, for that shout out. I expect a check in the mail.
Send me the new game Necromunda box set for that shout out.
Yeah, and then finally the Cities of Sigmar cannon, which I think I need to add some black powder burns around the front of it. But
Mm.
yeah, I'm happy with how they turned out for what they were meant to be. On to the Reconquer villain knights actually. As soon as we stop recording this, guys,
Mm.
for next week's what has Max painted this week?
Ooh.
Yeah, but I also Miles went to a doubles tournament. A doubles tournament for
You did?
the old world.
Okay.
Now, have you heard about what is going on in the old world at the moment?
No.
Like so it was a bit of a sleeper at the start, but vampire counts have become they got like a there's just been a meta report released by some sites and they've been doing
Mm.
consistently
Okay.
and 66% win rate for vampire counts. Like Bretonian's got like 60% as well, which is still
Uh-huh.
too high, but vampire counts are
Mm.
just everywhere at the moment, man. And
Mm.
we went to doubles tournament. I think there was only like 3 pairings out of 10 or 11
Mm-hmm.
that didn't have a vampire counts player within their pair, which was just mental, just completely mental. And it all boils down to essentially like scream lists of like Wailing Dirge of Banshees and stuff like that are just
No.
ripping through armies
Right.
because of leadership debuff stacks and stuff. So we
Mm.
managed to get, with no vampire counts within the list, I was Bretonians, we managed to get a draw and 2 wins and drew against the winners of the event. We came second, me and Phil, using
Wow.
Bretonians Dark Elves, which
It's a
was
lot of
fairly.
combination.
We thought about. It was a tournament, right? So we thought about trying to match it, but none of
Mm.
the armies that we could have like had a sensible match with.
Mercenaries. It could boil down to that. Bretonian force needed to hire some dark elves or there,
So
or vice versa.
this is what we came down to, right?
Yeah.
So the sundering happened post the War of the Beard, right?
Okay.
So all the elven architecture within Bretonia will have been like high elf and dark elf style rather than
Uh-huh.
just high elf.
Mm.
So when a dark elf styled thing rocks up at Bretonia, you're
Mm.
probably not going to know that it's not the right
Oh
sort
yeah.
of elf. And
Yeah,
so
you don't know what flavour of elf it is. Yeah, you're absolutely
yeah, because
right.
it just looks like the Tower of Aquitaine or
Mhm.
whatever like that. It's got that's got that spikes on it, which it just happens that those are the dark elf spikes rather than the high elf
I think
flourishes.
In the Warhammer rulebook for Dark Elves, like those little snippets, I think that was one of the short stories that this city opened up its doors to celebrate high elves turning up because they rescued them like 200 years before. Those dark elves who turned up. It's like, oh, this is cool. This is sweet. And then they ransacked the place.
Nice. Yeah, so
No.
so we played that, and actually, another thing that's been going on in the old world at the moment is level 4s being absolutely overwhelmingly good.
Okay.
Because they cast 4 spells a turn, they dispel every time anyone's in range of their dispel. Like, it's not limited per turn. And say like versus a level 2, where you cast 2 spells a turn, my dispel range is shorter, and when I'm dispelling, I'm only dispelling at level 2 rather than a level 4. So a level 4 is just like overwhelmingly better. But I had a level 2 because it's all I could sneak into my list on a warhorse, and Phil had a level 4 on foot. And actually, because I wasn't like thinking, oh, I'm going to just muscle through and cast spells, having the mobility to stay out of dispel range with my level 2 made it really successful. So it's something that if anyone's written off in their army because they've heard online, like, oh, you've got to have a level 4 or it's just not worth it, I have been really enjoying a level 2 to just get a few spells through, not expecting the world out of them, but some more tactical play. So when you are considering you're writing an army that you're going to then paint, I wouldn't be scared of certain options just because people have said, oh, this is overwhelmingly good.
Okay.
Or overwhelmingly bad. Yeah, but that's my meta report.
Yeah, I mean, I remember in 8th edition, that seemed to be like the standard. Whatever army you were playing or playing against, you could guarantee two things, BSB and a level 4 wizard of some variety. And it seems like that's carrying over into this edition as well.
Yeah, I think because of different things, but certainly, like, it's whether or not, I think he's probably not the right place to go into what to do to fix the game potentially.
No, your channel. That's your channel's thing. Yeah.
Well, he's also, I think we've been recording for a while now, so.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah, topic for another time maybe.
Yeah.
But no, that's okay. So overall, good event, fun event. Would you go back to it?
Yeah, really fun. Like, all the people were great to play against, and even the vampire counts players, which was every game. So, well, no, I really enjoyed it, and we came second, so we win almost.
You know, first the worst, second the best. Whenever I beat my boy at anything, you chance that at me. So well done.
First the worst, second the best, just because it rhymes.
Second the best. Yeah, you know, like if I beat him in Mario Kart or whatever, I didn't want to come first anyway. First sucks.
Fair enough. I suppose second is, well, I'm not a complete whacker, like the first person.
Exactly. Yeah, I was playing narratively.
Exactly. We were champions of narrative. As my,
I feel like that's a good place to leave it.
Billows in the wind.
Yeah. There's some kind of hipster joke in there, but Max hasn't had much sleep. I'm feeling pretty brain dead right now.
Yeah, insert your own joke into that situation.
Insert your own joke. In fact, insert your own exit as well.
Bye.
Bye.